Hey, all, Baruch Levi here from Soul Centered. Thanks for tuning in. I want to share with you some work that I'm doing on the Enneagram, which I talk a lot about because I use it in my personal life and my professional life, counseling people as a logotherapist, meaning-centered living, guidance, healing, and the holiday of Passover, Easter for my Christian friends, which really Passover is relevant as the Last Supper was a Passover Seder for Jesus. And so definitely similar messages and themes in Passover and Easter. And for anybody who's secular, spring holiday, you don't need to be religious to appreciate this. It's an ancient tale that Passover is built upon called the Exodus. You know it. You probably saw the movie or the cartoon or read the book. And books actually better usually is. It's a very deep teaching on freedom and what it means. It's why also, the forefathers and mothers of this country of America utilized it as part of our narrative of freedom. It's why Blacks utilized it as part of the narrative for liberation from slavery to freedom. And it's a timeless and timely message for all of us. So it's also personal. It's not just some ancient story that happened way back when to them. I just did a podcast on this. You can listen to this more in depth on the podcast. Less Enneagram focus there, more of the narrative. But the real meaning of Passover, I think so many people have forgotten what Passover is about, like most things in life. We go through the motions. We do, all the check boxes I see with a lot of Jews getting ready for Passover tonight as I'm recording this, cooking and cleaning, you hear clanking in the background. And that's all has its place, but that's not the message of Passover. Passover isn't just sitting down and having a nice meal or a ritual meal. It's about freedom. And it's not just, again, freedom that happened way back when, but freedom that needs to happen now, certainly in the world around us in 1,000 ways. But sometimes it's too easy to focus on other people's servitude, the way other people are oppressed needs to be addressed. We need to deal with it. We need to make sure that people are free. Don't turn your attention away from Ukraine. But also, don't forget that it starts with you. It starts within. If we're not free, how are we ever going to set others free? And you're probably saying, hey, B, I live in America in the 21st century. I'm free. Are you? Because the people that I counsel, that I guide, are not free. We're living in so much reaction. The world is pulling our strings. The economy is pulling our strings and has us enslaved. How many people do I guide who have tons of money in the bank and they feel enslaved to all of their obligations and their expectations? How many people do I guide who are grappling with feeling enslaved to food or to body image or to their age? We are enslaved in so many real ways that we don't even see or think about that they're enslavement. Enslavement at a simple level is when you don't have the ability to choose, when you believe you don't have the ability to choose. And my teacher and mentor, Viktor Frankl, Holocaust survivor, said, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose your own way, to choose your response. When you are reacting, you are not free. And all of us get stuck in reaction. All of us get enslaved. And so what you see on this picture right here is a picture of the Enneagram. The Enneagram is not a personality test. It's an ancient system of enslavement. Not how we enslave others, how we enslave ourselves or how we become enslaved. We all have a number, a way we get trapped, we get stuck. There are 9 Enneagram numbers, but the truth is you have all 9 in you. You have all of these different ways that you get stuck, that you get trapped, that you become enslaved, or you enslave yourself. You give up your ability to choose your response. So tonight at my Passover Seder, we're having an Enneagram Seder. We're doing the traditional prayer book. But in addition, everybody's got their paragraph summary of their Enneagram number. And again, you're not your number. This is how you get trapped, your particular way you get trapped. But all of these are different ways we all get trapped all the time. And so at our Seder, we're going to talk about how you, respectively, around the table, get stuck, get trapped, become enslaved to your number, how you start thinking, I am an Enneagram 8 or an Enneagram 2 versus that's how I react. And how do you become free? What's your pathway to freedom? And so We're going to go around the table tonight and we're going to talk about the Seder plate. That's the ritual objects on the table. But we're going to talk about this Seder plate, the Enneagram Seder plate, and how you personally get free. So here are 9 fundamental ideas, kind of a summary of each Enneagram type and energy. Again, you have them all in you. And both the ways that this energy or this Enneagram type gets trapped, but also the way to become free. How do you get back to your promised land out of slavery and servitude of your number? So I'm going to start, how about at the top? Enneagram 9, the one that says self-forgetting. Enneagram 9 is the Enneagram type that disappears in plain sight, that disappears to the background. He or she is somebody who, if they're not conscious, if they're reacting, they don't feel like they're important. They don't feel like their needs are at the top, and they'll put other people or other things' needs before their own. So the Enneagram 9 starts to lose herself, becomes a slave to a sense of self-forgetting. That's really what an Enneagram 9 does. And we all do that. And not just the 9s who rank that way on a personality profiling system, but all of us have times where we forget who we are and that we are significant and more important. So that's the slavery of a 9. How does a 9 become free? By putting herself back at the center, by taking back her power away from others, away from the circumstances, by putting herself back at the center of her life. It's not selfish, it's self-centering. If you're not at the center, if you're not important, then you can't ultimately be important to anybody else. You can't fully be present to them. So the pathway to freedom for an Enneagram 9 and in all of us is to put yourself back at the center, as Dr. Frankl says, to make your stand and say, I have needs, and my needs are going to get met. That's freedom for a 9. Amen, sister. Go find your freedom from slavery to the promised land. To the right of the picture of the 9 is the 1. The 1 is called the reformer, the perfectionist. And the 1 around the table in our lives and inside of us, and we all have a 1, is the critic. It's critical. She becomes very critical, seeking out imperfection. What's not right? What's not perfect? The challenge is nothing is ever perfect, and she's not ever perfect. We are all perfectly imperfect. The work of an Enneagram 1 is to stop seeking perfection, to stop feeling imperfect because she hasn't done everything perfectly, and to accept, to embrace, and to get back to goodness. You know, it's Voltaire who said, perfection is the enemy of the good. Put away perfection. It will enslave you. It will make you small, and it will ruin your relationships. Get back to, as an Enneagram 1, goodness. Goodness isn't perfect. It's good enough. It's contributing. It's making the world a better place, but not a perfect place. It ain't going to happen. Not on your watch, and not to you, not within you. So freedom, get back to goodness and away from perfection. Enneagram 1 in all of us. Enneagram 2, the helper. This is a Enneagram about connection. This is the Enneagram 2 is the relationship Enneagram type in all of us, and especially, when you're around an Enneagram 2, she wants to be in relationship. He wants to be in relationship. The challenge is sometimes it's so needed and becomes so needy, and it can slip into manipulation and control. We all do this in relationship, not just formal Enneagram 2s. The Enneagram 2 needs to get back to connection, not manipulation, to give, not center like the 9, but loves herself and doesn't need to be needed. She is worthy of love because she is simply a source of love. That's freedom for a 2. And I've seen so many 2s walk this pathway from slavery to freedom. Enneagram 3. Enneagram 3, the achiever, the performer. He or she is somebody who spends their life defining themselves as a human doing. How much can they do? How much can they contribute? How much can they create? And can they be seen doing it? And they start losing themselves. They start losing their truth. So the work back to freedom for an Enneagram 3 is to become authentic, to stop performing, to stop trying to impress. How does an Enneagram 3 get back to freedom? By being authentic, by being real, and knowing that they are enough. You are enough. And in America, we are all Enneagram 3s. You are not worthy and valued by what you do. You are worthy and valued by who you are. That's freedom for 3 and the 3 in all of us. Enneagram 4 is the individualist, sometimes the romantic. This is that personality type that just longs for more, longs for what she doesn't have. There's something always missing. There's this constant envy that drives the bus. And in Enneagram 4, in all of us, because again, we live in a culture that you never have enough. There's always the newest this, that, or the other. We're missing out. We're not special. So the Enneagram 4 has to get back to her freedom by wanting what she has, enjoying what she has, appreciating, seeing what's there, not just what's missing. I work with quite a few Enneagram 4s, and it's almost like turning their head to see, oh yeah, I have 99% of the things I want. So I'm missing 1% of the things. I'm going to focus on the 99%. That's freedom for the 4. For the Enneagram 5, this is the investigator, the head type, the thinker. They can become hoarders. Avarice is the word used in the Enneagram world. They're constantly worried that they're not going to have enough resources, enough bandwidth. They become exhausted and depleted. So if they're not conscious, Enneagram 5 will start hoarding their time, their energy, their money. The work of an Enneagram 4 is to stop white knuckling their way through life, open their palms, to give, to receive, to let people in, to remember that life is about it's about being in relationship, and it's about experience. So when a 5 is in that place of constriction, which is what Egypt literally means in Hebrew, Mitzrayim means constriction, they need to get to a place of expansiveness and of opening their heart and opening their lives, and that's freedom for a 5. For an Enneagram 6, the real work for a 6 is around fear. I'd say it's probably the largest percentage of the population. I have a lot of 6s I work with. 6 gets small like an animal. They go into fear to fight or oftentimes flight or freeze, and they become stifled in their life. They get stuck in analysis paralysis, anxiety. And we live in a 6 culture where we have never been more anxious in human history. And when that happens, our world gets small. An Enneagram 6 needs to find their way back to their freedom through courage, through stepping up, facing their fears, embracing their fears, transcending their fears, transforming their fears into something good, something meaningful, to alleviate pain and darkness, if not in their life, then in the world. So the Enneagram 6 becomes this warrior when they, stop being a warrior. And that's a pathway to freedom for a 6 and for the 6 in all of us. An Enneagram 7, this is the enthusiast. This is the fun guy or gal. This is the one who stays at the surface, who kind of keeps it light, and who jumps around quite a bit, especially when they're not doing the inner work. They don't want to go deep, and almost they can't go deep. So the work, and they're avoiding something. I mean, that's the slavery of a 7, is that it's almost like they can't stop and face their fears, face the darkness, the opposite of the 4, the individualist. So the work of a 7 is to stand still, to stop running, to stop anticipating or planning for the future, to be present to the people around you, around your Seder table, around your Easter supper table, to be present, to be fully here, to go down the difficult paths, to have those difficult conversations, to know that happiness is not the goal, joy is the goal, and joy contains within it the darkness and the fear. 7s ascend and become free when they stop running and they make their stand and they face their fears like the 6. And 8, last but not least, my type. 8's the challenger, also the controlling ones. Control. It is all about control. We are intense. We are pushy. We are big energy. And it oftentimes comes from a place of being afraid. We're afraid for not just ourselves, for the people around us. I want to minimize their suffering. I want to minimize injustice. I want to control so that I'm not controlled and the people around me are controlled. And in that process, I become hardened. I become tough and nobody can reach me. I can't even reach myself. Enneagram 8s, that is a type of a slavery that nobody should have to know. The pathway to freedom for an 8 is to become vulnerable, to open our hearts, to share our insecurities and our fears, to let people in, maybe for the first time in our life. And when we do, we are on our pathway to freedom. So the Enneagram even looks like a Seder plate, is a spiritual Seder plate, is a spiritual paradigm for anybody of any religion, of any tradition. It's a psychological paradigm. It's a roadmap for how to stop living in reaction, how to stop living trapped, stuck, without a choice, being victims of our circumstances. That is slavery. Whether or not you have a shackle on your legs, whether or not you're, in a dictatorial, authoritarian country, that's not the only form of slavery and servitude. When we forfeit our ability to choose, when we outsource our power to others or something outside of ourselves, we become victims. We become powerless. The pathway forward, the pathway to liberation, is to take back your power of choice, to stop reacting, to start responding. Whether or not you're having a Passover meal, whether or not you're going to, it's Good Friday, going to church, or Sunday participating in Easter festivities. That's not the point. The point is that these are just reminders to all of us to take back our power, to stop reacting, to start responding, to choose your own way. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear about your Passover journey, your Easter journey, your life journey. Jump over to defiantspirit.org, where you can learn about all of my programs. I have an Enneagram do-it-yourself video program coming out in the next week or two. Stay tuned for that. Until then, have a meaningful Passover, have a meaningful Easter, have a truly good, maybe not perfect, but good Friday. Get out there and stop reacting, start responding, defy your number, live your spirit, and live your life. Take care.